Hey there everyone, it's Scott once again and welcome to another video. This time I'm going to be discussing a movie, doing a movie review of a particular film. This one I'm going to be talking about the 1999 supernatural horror film, Stigmata. And this here is the Shout Factory Blu-ray that I have. It was a decent transfer, had a good, nice looking picture, good sound quality, has a good amount of extras, but I believe they've been ported from the previous DVD. I actually never owned that DVD. Strangely enough, I used to have this film on VHS, and I still have it. It's somewhere with all the other VHS that I got in storage back there, so yeah. But anyways, overall, I think the film was decent. There is some flaws to it, but I don't think it necessarily deserved the heavy criticism that it got. But there are some definite, flaws that keep it from being a perfect film, so to speak. But I'll just jump right into the technical crew and the cast. The film itself was directed by Rupert Wainwright. He previously directed the film Blank Check, which was kind of like a throwaway Disney film with Brian Boswell. He played the actor played a kid who basically forges like $1 million on a blank check, so to speak. I thought the film was okay. And then apparently before that, he directed a film called Dillinger, which had Mark Harmon in it. And from what I read, that actually had Patricia Arquette, who's actually the star of this film. So this is the second time he's directing her in this film. And apparently, I believe he's also done music videos too, according to this one reviewer who reviewed this film. And then, after this film, he actually did the remake of The Fog, which I heard sucked ass. It was a piss poor remake. And then, I believe that may have been his last theatrical feature. He did a lot of short films and stuff like that, so he hasn't really done much directing theatrical releases for quite some time. So there you go. And then the film was produced by Frank Mancuso Jr., and since I believe he was the head of MGM or something like that, he's actually going to be kind of another name that I'm going to be talking about in my upcoming review of Supernova, which was released through MGM because this film was also released through MGM as well. So, well, the production company was FGM Entertainment, but it was, of course, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. MGM released this, but anyways. And the film was written by Tom Lazarus, Rick Ramage, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. Then you have the cast of Patricia Arquette, who plays our main character, and then Gabriel Byrne is the one that comes to help and aid and investigate, Arquette's character situation. Then you have Jonathan Pryce, who's basically Andrew's, basically his boss. Well, not necessarily his boss, but he's the Cardinal Houseman, pretty much. So yeah, he's basically overseeing what Andrew does, and he can determine whether or not it's the matter is conclusive or it's fake or all the stuff. So anyways, I'll get to Then you have Neil Lon, who is Patricia Arquette's friend. Then you have Ray Cerda-Bezia. I don't think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm butchering his last name, so I'm going to call him Ray S. He's basically one of the friends. He's basically one of the priest's friends of Andrew, so to speak. So yeah. And the music was actually scored by Billy Corgan. I believe he was a member. I believe he's the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins or something. And then it was also done by Elia Kamrel, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce the name or her name. Sorry. And then cinematography was done by Jeffrey L. Kimball. He's done a lot of films I'm familiar with. I know he did Top Gun. He did Star Trek Nemesis. He actually did Legend of Billie Jean. I'm actually looking him up. Right after this film, he did Mission Impossible 2, Paycheck. He did The Expendables. Yeah, he hasn't done anything since then, so he's still alive, but I guess he might have retired. But anyways, he's a good cinematographer. Some of the cinematography is decent, but there's some also problems I have with some of the visual style that was used. Anyway, but getting to the plot, basically, Gabriel Byrne's character is investigating the situation that happened in Bel Quinto, this village. He's investigating this Virgin Mary. Sorry, my nose is fucking itching. Sorry about that. Anyway, he's investigating the Virgin Mary statue that's eyes is bleeding, and there's a funeral going on for this Pablo Alameda, and apparently. A rosary gets stolen by this local boy, gives it to the mom, and that's when the mom is actually, Frankie's mom, which is Arquette's character, eventually gets sent to her, and weird shit starts happening to her. She has these attacks, she starts receiving stigmatic wounds, like her wrists are 2 deep wounds on her wrist, and then the doctors can't finally find the cause, and Frankie is, feeling so helpless and out of control. She eventually gets another attack when she's on the subway, and she's whipped repeatedly by the unseen force of the second attack, and then eventually she's hospitalized again. Then apparently, before she was attacked the second time, she tries to ask this priest if she was a particular priest by the name of Andrew Kiernan. He's not, but eventually he's able to witness the attack, and he actually sends the footage of the security tape to Colonel Houseman, which is Andrew's boss, who then sends Andrew to investigate the situation, and they eventually meet up. Both Andrew and Frankie meet up, and they have their discussion. She's not really a religious person; she's more of like an atheist. And then eventually, she gets attacked yet again by the Crowns, and they're trying to work together to try to solve why in the hell is she being attacked. She even gets possessed one time. She starts writing this entire language of Aramaic all over her apartment, or a good part of the wall. And she's in this daze where apparently she's being possessed by Alameda, as it's revealed. And then eventually she's able to regain herself, and then once again she gets attacked by another attack happens, and she gets her feet, some deep wounds on her feet, and apparently she's not too far from getting the fifth one, which is a spear right through the heart. So basically they're trying to figure out what's really happening to her and what's going on. Why is she getting attacked, even though she's not really a religious type person? So eventually they come to find out that apparently Father Almeida was trying to translate some kind of gospel that was the original gospel, and Houseman ordered them to stop, but Almeida continued to translate it, and I guess he didn't really get a chance to finish it. So he ends up possessing her, and then eventually Andrew comes to find that Houseman had actually excommunicated Alameda and stuff like that to prevent them from trying to expose the real truth in the gospel. And eventually Gabriel Byrne is able to reach Alameda's spirit, and eventually he leaves, and Frankie's apparently free, and Andrew becomes determined to try to he finds the original documents for the lost gospel in Alameda's church. And he continues to. The interesting thing about his character is that he's while he's a priest, he's also a scientist. He wants to, understand the nature of it, and at least release the facts on it. So he in the end decides he's going to try to, at least unleash the real facts about Jesus Christ and the whole religious aspect. I think one of the interesting things about this film is I like how it tries to touch on certain religious aspects. Like, what if the Bible or anything like that wasn't really the original, but this was, and basically, it's possible that the Catholicism with the people that are Catholic were trying to cover that up. I think that was interesting about it to some degree. And some of the acting, it's not bad. I think most of the actors do a fine job. They try to do what they can to kind of liven up a very kind of mediocre script or story. Both Byrne and Patricia Arquette, you kind of care for them to some degree, but the main problem I think the problem I have with this really is that at times they lack certain chemistry, and I feel like sometimes it can be kind of forced, and also I felt like the whole pacing and everything, it felt like it was out of place. Like it was more like kind of like a extended music video, according to one review, and I kind of agree with him. I feel like at times it seemed like it was off pace, and I noticed the director seemed to use a lot of fade to black a lot of times. I felt like that was kind of annoying. Why can't they just have like a normal cut or something like that? The director used this frequently, and I wasn't really impressed by it. And then honestly, the music by Billy Corgan and this other person, Elia, they were able to hit the emotional notes okay, but the problem was when Frankie gets her attacks, it just seems like the music was rather laughable. Like it didn't really scare me, because overall this film wasn't really that scary. It was billed as a horror film. I remember back in the day when they advertised it, there was one part that did freak me out, was whenever we see Frankie and her eyes are like translucent when she's in that possessed state. I remember that was kind of freaky. Looking back, it's not the same as it was back in '99. But yeah, the main flaws I have with this is the music at times seemed laughable. I feel like the characters didn't have have very good chemistry, even though the acting wasn't the problem. I think they did fine in that aspect. I don't like how the director used this kind of music video style pacing that he used. It just was off-putting. I feel like other than the characters of maybe Frankie and Andrew, and maybe somewhat of Colonel Houseman, I feel like you really didn't care about much about the supporting characters, except for maybe Raid S's character, but he doesn't really appear in the film as much. I wish they would have fleshed out more of his character, and I wish looking back they could have fleshed out more of why Alameda's spirit possessed Frankie. I feel like they should have kind of elaborated on that. Why would he try to take on the spirit of this? Well, I guess in a way, the rosemary was the stolen rosemary had like a particular spirit, and I guess that's why it possessed Frankie. But why did it possess her? Couldn't have found like another person that was maybe somewhat religious instead of her. I don't know. I think they could have done something better with that aspect and explained the motivations a little better looking back. But some of the good things I liked about this film was probably the acting was definitely not the problem. I think Byrne and Arquette did fine in their roles. Even Houseman, who's later revealed to be kind of the villain who tried to silence Houseman to prevent the gospel from being spread, the true Aramaic religious aspects. So I like how it tried to explore all that, and maybe the Catholicism, the particular religion of Catholicism was trying to cover it all up. So I can understand that. I think it was an interesting little touch there. And some of the visual style, like whenever Frankie looks like she's going to receive that fifth stigmata, I like how it was directed. I thought it was interesting. I think that's one of the few visual moments that I liked. And I liked how when Gabriel Byrne's character tries to, offer to be, Alameda's messenger to try to spread the word of the true Jesus language and stuff like that. I thought it was really well done with the fire and all that. So I was glad that they had that resolved. I'm also glad they didn't use the alternate ending that was on here. Originally, Frankie actually did die right after Byrne was able to, release Alameda's spirit. Apparently, she did receive the fifth wound, when she was walking around, that was actually like a vision that Andrew saw. So I'm glad they cut that out. So I'm glad that they went with the ending that she lived, even though that would have kind of been an interesting way to look at it, but I'm glad they didn't go with that ending. Because you kind of feel for Frankie, even though she's not exactly, a religious person, but you see that there's some good to her. Like, she even gives a homeless guy a drink. It shows that despite the fact that she's more of an atheist, she's not a bad person. And she's even tried to research as to why this stuff was happening to her. And why she got, even when she was on the subway, for example, she was asking for help, or she was asking for somebody, and this guy was like, "Do you need help?" And she's like, "Nobody can help me, I'm fucked." And she actually gets pissed off and actually rips one of the religious necklaces off this nun or something like that. So yeah. So I wouldn't say her character was bad. I just wish looking back they could have upped the character's motivations, and some of the technical aspects, like the music, could have been done a little better. I don't know if Billy Corgan was the right person for the job. I felt like certain scenes when the attacks happened to her were laughable. But anyway, so I said, it's not a bad film. I can definitely say I would recommend it on a first watch. I don't know if I would repeatedly own it. I just owned it because I didn't think it was that bad of a film. And plus, I wanted to see what the Blu-ray quality was like. And it's decent. And of course, it had the features. Had some deleted scenes. I don't remember what the deleted scenes are, but I do remember the ending. But anyway, you slice it. This is not a bad film. And at the end of the day, you definitely should check it out, just for a watch to see if you like it. Maybe you can go in with an open mind and try to, not be narrow-minded if you have to. If you're not a fan of it, that's understandable. It's not a perfect film. But I do think that Gabriel Byrne did not deserve that Razzie nomination. He did a good job of playing, the priest/scientist, trying to, kind of have a struggle with his religion and his faith. And I like how he also wants to, have that optimism, but also, dig deeper into the facts. That's why he's also considered an investigator of sorts in this character. So yeah. But yeah, overall, I thought the film was decent. At the end of the day, I would go ahead and check it out, for once, just to satisfy for your curiosity. So yeah. Anywho, I'm going to end it right here, but I'm going to go on and do another review, and that's another Gabriel Byrne film that he was in. This time he plays a bad guy, and that's The End of Days. Be on the lookout for that. So yeah. All right. I will definitely see you later. See ya.